Hello viewers, I wanted to introduce a program I have been working on for a good few years. This program is called the TeleSystem. What this program does is effectively play video files depending on the time. There is a folder for every half hour, of every weekday, of every month. Generally, the purpose and namesake of this program is to replicate a TV station in a casual, easy-to-use way. There should be a download on my TeleSystem Odyssey channel that you can get this from. Now, when you unzip the file, you should see similar files to the ones on my screen in the TeleSystem folder. These files are readme.txt, settings.txt, telesystem.exe, tvsystem.ico, and the main folder. First of all, the telesystem.exe file. You can test this executable right now. Let's try it. Okay, so what you should see if this is the base setup is these color bars. This is what appears if the system cannot find other videos. If that works, then we can continue. To quickly list all the other files, the README text file is a useful guide that basically recites everything I am saying here. The settings will have text lines that you can toggle for the system. We will come back to those later. The tv.system.ico file is an icon file for the TeleSystem that shows up on the window. If it is not there, it will show the Kinter feather icon instead, which is the code that the window display uses. So now that we got all that settled, let's go into the main folder. What you should see here is a folder for every month, a folder named Default, and one named Resources. No need to think about the month or resources folders just yet. Let's move on to the default folder. Here are some more folders, these ones being for each weekday. This one also has a default folder, which we will go into. Now here are the block folders. So here's the deal. All of the month folders and the weekday folders have their own copies of these folders. These default folders are for when the TeleSystem can't find anything else, which is to say, these default folders are the best to start filling. What you will want to do to test this is to navigate the folder which matches your current time. These folders use the military time format, 12 AM being 0, and PM hours going past 12, 1 PM being 13, 2 PM being 14, and so on, all that. Now that you are in your relevant folder, you should see it empty. At the most basic level, all you have to do to get this to work is just put a video file here, and it will play it, just straight up. Here's this random video I'll use. Now let's go back to the core folder and test this out. Great. Hopefully it works for you too. The TeleSystem will play any videos in that block folder randomly until the time stops matching. Let's go back. So you can just add whatever you want and it'll play it randomly. However, you can add multiple videos into one block. Simply by making a folder. You can name it whatever you want. This will have the TeleSystem play every video file in a row as one block. Now, if we go back a bit and go to the default block folder, you should see the default color bars and a text file named showlist. These are optional settings for the block. These are very useful. Copy this text file to the block folder you are using and you can take advantage of these settings. Now, let's check this text file out. You should see some text lines, these being bumper set, interset, interlength, miniset, and order, all with hashtags at the front. Removing these hashtags will enable those settings. The first 4 settings are a bit difficult to explain without more context. However, the last setting, order, will cause the TeleSystem to play each main video block in order, incrementing the number in order by 1 with every play. Useful if you have blocks that are meant to eventually continue off from each other, like a television show would do with episodes. Instead of explaining the first 4 right now, let's go back to the main folder that contains all of the month folders. So earlier I briefly mentioned this resources folder at the end here. Let's go in it. Oh hey, bumpers, intermissions, and minisodes. Let's check intermissions real quick as an example. So referencing back to the show list settings, we got bumper set, interset, and miniset. Them being set to default refers to this folder, with the others having equivalents of. The system will try to pull from the folder that was named beside the set. Intermissions will be played in between main videos, and if you were to have a folder or block with multiple videos, it'll play these files between those as well. Sorta like commercial breaks in television, though these don't need to be commercials, they can be whatever you want. If you look in default, you will have a few videos packed into this download to test with. Just some public domain commercials from a long time ago. There be a little test file named interlist. This contains one line being interorder. You can make the intermissions play in order if want. You can also just delete the file and it'll play randomly like normal. Minisodes and bumpers also have this file. Before we move on to the others, it would be useful to explain interlength. Interlength determines how long the intermission break will last. 1 equals 10% of the length of the last main video. 2 is 20%, 5 is 50%, and so on, until 11, which is 150%. After that starts doubling, 12 2 times, 13 3 times, until 20 or higher, which maxes at 10 times the length of the last main video. So with that explained, let's go to Minisodes. So Minisodes work the same. Will be pulled using the miniset setting. Minisodes play at the end of a block, no matter how many videos are in that block, it'll always be at the end. These will generally be larger stuff, as you will sometimes see in television. There is a few public domain shorts packed into this download for testing. Now let's see bumpers. Bumpers are slightly different. There are 3 types of bumpers: main bumpers, start bumpers, and end bumpers. Main bumpers play at the start of a block, not used all the time in television but can be useful sometimes. Start bumpers play at the beginning of an intermission break, while end bumpers play at the end of an intermission break. And you got yourself a bumper list in case you want to enable ordering. So going back into these original show list settings, all you gotta do to enable them is remove the hashtags. Now let's test it out. Here we got the main bumper that begins the block. Now the main show. You can press the N letter key to skip videos. Here's the start bumper, just a basic default bumper. And now the intermissions. Let's skip all these.
Yes, sir. If you want.
Here is the end bumper. We'll have to skip a few to get to the minisode. This might take a bit. Awesome, it works. I just had to hope it worked for you too. So now that we got all that settled, I think you get the idea of what to do with the bumper, inter, and mini set settings. You can make as many folders as you want in the bumper, intermission, and minisode folders, and you can replace the default in the set settings to let the TeleSystem know which folder to pull from. Each block's show list file can refer to different resource folders. You can add resources for morning, afternoon, evening, and night, or any other type of category. I've explained about all the basics of the TeleSystem. However, there is still the settings.txt file at the front of the TeleSystem, so I will briefly explain all the settings in the settings text file that may help you with more specifications you want for your system. The first is loop break. This will enable the TeleSystem to close automatically after a while. You should disable this if you would plan to have it on for a long time, but it is useful in case of a loop error. Loop count is the number of blocks the TeleSystem will play before closing. If block buffer is enabled, whenever a block would end during the last 10 minutes of the next block, this will continuously play intermissions until the next block period would start, rather than replaying the same block. If end prevent is enabled, whenever a block extends out towards the next block period, this will stop intermissions and minisodes at the end to get to that next block more quickly and lower the chance of the TeleSystem skipping that block entirely. Start full screen will start the video player in full screen mode rather than windowed. You can at any time press F4 to switch between the two. Hide process will hide the Python terminal after the first block ends. If you want to access the terminal again, it will be hiding in Task Manager under Background Processes. These three info settings are used to show certain information on the terminal. You can disable them to make the terminal more focused. Max show error handle and max show part error handle will prevent an error that sometimes happens if you have too many videos in a block folder. Extend the amount that you think you will need, and if an error ever happens, this may be the reason. Debug logger will create a debug file and list general debug information that is more useful to me. But if you ever come across a weird error, this file might help you locate what it might be. And extra is just extra, it doesn't do anything. So that's that. The download is located on the TeleSystem Odyssey channel. Have fun. There are a lot of possibilities with this program, and I want to add more features as time goes on. This TeleSystem has sort of been a dream of mine. Started in 2018, was very primitive at first, using Task Scheduler to play VLC playlists every hour. Now back to your regular scheduled program.